Embracing the shadow doesn't have to be complicated. Embracing your dark side only comes down to one thing. It's not about mythological journeys or dives into your Jungian unconscious. That's all out of the reach of the average person. But there is a way in which all of us can embrace our dark sides easily, in 5 minutes, in one day. And that is, we need to not put ourselves in some special category of good people. You see people doing this all the time to the point that they actually backwards rationalize everything they do. They start with the idea that I am a good person, and therefore they can then look back at anything they've done in their past and change it to fit into that first belief, which is that they're a good person. So therefore, by definition, everything they've done must have been good. And this means that you're unable to look at the darkness within yourself and the dark temptations that are always kind of pulling you towards the dark side. And I think that's the problem with thinking of yourself is in this special category of good person versus the kind of people that commit crimes and do bad things who are in some different category. And those two categories don't really have much crossover. When in fact, each person is occupying both categories at all times. You're trending in one direction or the other. You might say that if someone's deep in the darkness, they might be ever so gradually being pulled towards the light. And you, as probably an average person watching a YouTube video, you're probably mostly living in the light. You're not doing anything too evil, but you probably feel dark temptations. And a lot of those dark temptations are probably sublimated in activities related to romance and sex, because that is one part where the primitive side of us just cannot seem to be hidden. Except in the extremely religious, that side of us usually expresses honestly the darker side of what we might desire or yearn for. And it means just taking some time to focus on that part of yourself. That's how you get to the dark side. Now, it doesn't mean elevating that primitive part of yourself to kinghood over your person. It doesn't mean that your most primitive parts, your darkest parts, the parts of you that want something savagely, is the real you. The real you comprises the good side, the benevolent side, the rational side as well. But you're probably not focusing on that dark side, and therefore, it's like a nasty child, a bad kid who's being unwatched in the back of the classroom or being unwatched in the house or the daycare. If you just turn your head away, that kid is actually going to get away with more and more bad stuff. He's going to start pulling the other kid's hair. And as he gets away with more and more, he's going to grow in power and he's going to grow in daring. And eventually he's going to have the momentum and the audacity to do something so bad that you can't stop it, that you can't control it. And this is how you see good people have this effect of snapping, of doing something really horrible, seemingly out of nowhere. It's because the dark side of them has been unattended for so long, and they've been so disconnected from the idea that they're capable of something evil, that they're always trending towards something evil, always tempted towards something evil, that they let that side of them sort of gather an army in secret to then ambush them in a weak moment. This is all of us. All of us are tempted in these ways, and I think the good people in the world are those that are keenly aware of this dark side. One of my favorite quotes is that there's the Jesus inside of us and Hitler inside of us, and all we can do is work on one or the other. Really imagine them as just two sort of pieces of software running inside you, and you can either work on making one run more powerfully and taking over the operating system that is you, or the other. And eventually, one might grow so weak that it's not much of a concern, and you can do what the Sufi poet Rumi said, which is, see the evil in you and invite him in for tea. And that's something we all should be doing. But we can't just do that if that side of us is ruling. If the dark side of you is ruling you and you don't even know it, then I doubt that this video is going to resonate with you at all. But if you're an average person whom has pushed down the primitive desires, the dark aggression, all of those sides of you, what you need to do first and foremost is look to history and look to things in your personal history that prove that you as a human being are capable of the greatest evils. That you as an individual have done things in your past that maybe for like 5 seconds you were in the consciousness of someone like Hitler. You were in the consciousness of someone truly evil. Luckily, you weren't that for a lifetime. You were only that for a single split second, wherein maybe you didn't even take action, but you can be that. You have been that. Two of the most powerful examples would, of course, be Nazi Germany, wherein do you really think 45% of the population were sociopaths? Of course not. They were normal people who were dragged into that through the appeal of an ideology and through an appeal to those darker desires for things like their idea of purity, their idea of greatness. And at the same time, too, things that went over for thousands of years, like slavery, the fact that every single person on earth pretty much went along with that for thousands and thousands of years. What does that say? It says that the darkness in you is happy to ignore things, and it's also happy to appreciate them so long as they personally benefit you. So look not only to the darkness that you're hiding, but the darkness that is ruling you very, very covertly through the things that you ignore and the things that you justify because they benefit you. If you can form a relationship to your personal darkness in both of those directions, I would say that you're healthily in touch with the shadow. But it doesn't take much more than that. All it takes is some time to reflect on history and yourself. That's all. On a spiritual journey or go through a walk in the woods and fast for 20